2020 was thought to be an exciting year for gaming, and while that's not completely false since we did get the next generation of consoles, it was a big letdown in a lot of cases. However, 2021 seems to be bringing its all, with the spiritual successor of Left 4 Dead finally coming out. Named Back 4 Blood, or the Evil Dead game, who has Bruce Campbell up front as the main character once again, but there's many more titles that should pique your interest. Today I'll be going over 8 exciting games I can't wait to see firsthand, as well as some honorable mentions towards the end. Let's start this off with one of the games that kinda caught me by surprise. It might satisfy that hunger I've had for a good werewolf game, the oddly titled Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthbound. For a long while I've been craving a good werewolf game. The last one to grab my attention was Don't Even Think, a battle royale werewolf game I did a brief review on in the past, but it's also one that fails on just about every level. So when I saw the announcement for Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthbound, I felt that beastly hype once again. But this time around it seems to be a better and more thought out game than Don't Even Think. This title really does look awesome, and so far we know that you as the player will have 3 forms of transformation, the first being human. This is best used for interactions with NPCs and other objects such as doors. Then you have the form of an ordinary wolf, majorly increasing your movement speed. This will be mainly used for exploration and infiltration. Then the final transformation, the full werewolf stage, where you're a beast who can't be caged, used for tearing up your enemies in combat, which as expected seems to be a really fun mechanic. I'm guessing this game is going to have some RPG elements as well for upgrading your werewolf and giving him different abilities. Now there's not much else to go on, but I'll be covering this game in more detail at some point. That being said, let's move on to the next title on this list, a game I've been waiting for. The spiritual successor to the one and only Left 4 Dead franchise, Back 4 Blood. Left 4 Dead is the game that got me into the zombie genre, excluding Resident Evil. The first time I played it was on a PC so ancient it oozed hieroglyphs, and now we get to see how the next generation of this game by the geniuses who created the first pans out. Honestly, I've watched several gameplay videos, and while it doesn't have anything too insanely different, it looks bigger and bloodier, which is just what I want. They promise more playable characters, more location variety, and more intriguing enemies in classic Left 4 Dead style. Bigger, bloodier, better really is the best way to describe what I think this game will end up being. Some of the new things include some cool enemies like this one that resembles a spider who can throw webs at your feet and tangles you up, which then your teammates have to go and cut you out. Now these will add new interesting mechanics that we really haven't seen in a Left 4 Dead game before. I can't wait to try it out on June 22nd of this year. It will be available on Xbox, PlayStation, and Windows PC. This next game doesn't exactly have a solid release date, so it may likely be a 2022 title or even further, but I just couldn't skip over it. And quite honestly, I didn't think there'd be another entry in this franchise so soon. I'm referring to Final Fantasy 16. This new Final Fantasy experience looks to be something very fresh. It seems like a medieval take on the story instead of the futuristic world we are used to. It seems very dark and filled with dread, but also still keeps the many combat elements from Final Fantasy 15, which I love. Though in Final Fantasy 16, the combat looks to be slowed down a bit, resembling a Dark Souls-like formula, which I don't hate. I don't like comparing games to Dark Souls, don't get me wrong, but sometimes that is literally the best way to explain what the combat is like in just 2 words. It has everything you could want: chocobos, titans, cinematic cutscenes, and my hope is it's filled with interesting RPG mechanics as well. But we may not know more about this game for a while, and as soon as we do, I'll probably be covering it because I just really love the Final Fantasy franchise. I really like the 15, but the story was a little bit too short for me, honestly, and I just wanted more enemy variety. But as always, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, this game may not be coming out for a while, but I can't say that about this next game on the list. In fact, it was said to be out early next month, but as of 2 days ago, the game has been delayed to April 1st. Of all dates to put a game on, don't ask me why they put it on April 1st, yet I'm still shaking with anticipation to play this thing. I'm referring to the new looter shooter, Outriders. The delay of this game really hurts, and it's a bit worrisome, but hopefully it's not the red flag that plagues most games in this genre that have been delayed like this. We know a lot about Outriders so far, as it's so close to release, but I won't be going over everything here, just to save some time. But in short, Outriders is a looter shooter that has you explore a alien planet named Enoch, with varied biomes, what seems to be exciting and very badass enemy design and loot, lots of supposedly meaningful loot. Now, from the many gameplay reveals and videos I've watched, it's very easy to get what the game game is trying to go for. It has a cover mechanic similar to Gears of War. You get to customize your character and pick from the 4 classes: Pyromancer, Trickster, Devastator, and Technomancer. I may go more in depth in a later video when it's closer to a release date, but even though these classes appear basic, apparently the abilities you get are really unique and will provide varied playstyles. I really hope outfitting your Outrider will be better than recent looter shooters. This game may actually be able to break the cycle of broken loot and dreadful mission design. We will just have to, wait and see, but while we do just that, let's check out the next game that has made it to my shopping list for 2021, Shadow Warrior 3. I haven't played the first one, but I absolutely love Shadow Warriors 2. It's a genius mix of platforming, ninja-packed gameplay, and really fun RPG mechanics. The series just oozes badassness. Shadow Warrior 3 looks like an amazingly increase in that insane factor. The platforming looks to be much more in-depth, the crazy melee combat mixed in with excellent first-person shooting mechanics even looks like it's had a giant upgrade. I love the main character of this franchise, and it seems we will be playing as our marvelous Wang again, who brings so much outrageous character and humor to each Shadow Warrior installment. Is actually crazy. Also, this franchise has a host of unique weapons, very reminiscent of a looter shooter actually. This looks to be severely increased for Shadow Warriors 3, at least I hope, and I absolutely can't wait to get my hands on this game. I will be reviewing Shadow Warrior 2 in celebration for this one, which I'll be posting within the next week or so. I actually did a poll on Twitter asking which genre would you prefer me to cover next, and a looter shooter surprisingly won, so this will be the game I cover next. For that very reason, if you'd like to take part in these polls in the future and have a hand in what video comes out next, then feel free to check out the Twitter account linked below. No need to follow me or anything like that. Okay, self-promotion aside, let's go ahead and get right into the next game on our list, starring the amazing talent of the one and only Bruce Campbell. Let's talk about the Evil Dead game. If you're like me, then you know what this universe is capable of. Evil Dead first started with a cheesy but cult classic movie, and it was fan-fucking-tastic. Ever since, we've gotten more movies, and even a TV series, plus some other media I'm sure I'm forgetting. And this isn't the first game either. However, this seems to be the most intriguing one for the Evil Dead name. Now, this game will be a multiplayer shooter from the looks of it. It has mechanics that allows people to play as both the hero and the dead. So something similar to that one Resident Evil game that released with Resident Evil 3, and the Doom Eternal multiplayer is another way to think of it. It's an interesting mechanic that I hope is done better here than it was done in Resident Evil. It goes without saying. Bruce Campbell is a genius in my eyes, and I'm sure I'm not alone on that. I'm counting the days in which I'll be able to play as Ash once again. However, I'll be counting for a while since there's really not an exact release date, but it is said to be releasing sometime this year. 2021 really seems to be a solid year for gamers, as there's one title I have wished for time and time again, and finally Hogwarts Legacy may grant me that very same wish. I, and I'm sure many others, always have been intrigued by the Harry Potter universe and have always dreamed of an RPG where you can create your own sorcery using student and do everything the movies and books have entailed. This game seems to be the embodiment of that dream, even surpassing it, since we will actually be able to explore not just Hogwarts, but also the surrounding areas such as the Cursed Forest or other mysterious lands. This has me beyond my hype bar. I hope this game really delivers on exactly what it promises. Until then, we will just have to keep our wands on alert at the ready for a release date sometime later in 2021. This year really does seem to be the year of sequels, as we are getting Shadow Warrior 3, the new Left 4 Dead experience, and Final Fantasy 16, just to name a few. But there's also one more household name that has been gifting us great and terrible games, but mostly great recently. I'm talking about Resident Evil 8 Village. Resident Evil 4 still remains to this day my favorite Resident Evil game, just because it was just so geniusly done. It was actually a horror game at the same time as being a fun action-packed shooter. Thankfully, Resident Evil 8 seems to be going back to those roots and trying to grow anew. Now, fitting that this game falls in our 8th spot, Resident Evil 8 is continuing the brilliance of Resident Evil 7, and even brings in werewolves to the mix, which I'm always down for. I love Resident Evil 7, and this game is extending on that storyline, with promise of more Chris Redfield Redfield, which is amazing because he's the character I want most in my Resident Evil games. Now, there's not much to be said about this one. It'll be available on the current gen platforms such as PS5 and the Xbox Series X. It'll also be on Microsoft Windows, releasing sometime this year. No exact date has actually been announced yet though. Either way, I'm excited to learn more about the enemies in this game and the ways we'll be able to take them out with, and just the characters that will take part. It's fair to say that 2021 is already showing more promise than the dreadful 2020 ever had, and this list is but a small example of why to be excited. I have some more than honorable mentions I'd also want to talk about real quick, like God of War Ragnarok. This game is easily the one I'm most excited to learn more about. The first God of War was simply breathtaking, so I expect this game to leave me completely breathless. If we see more bosses than the first and better customization, then it's a safe bet this game will be way better than the predecessor, which is already an incredible experience in itself. Also, we have the new horror game being developed by the same creators behind Dead Space. I'm hoping Callisto Protocol will be the spiritual successor of that legendary franchise. Why? Because we haven't had a good game in the series since Dead Space 2, and I just really want another Dead Space experience. Most of all though, I'm curious on what's going on with Dying Light 2. This game and its devs have been quiet for a long while since the game got indefinitely delayed. It's still happening, of that I have no doubt, but I would really like to know when we can expect to play this ambitious sequel. There's many more titles I think actually deserve to be on this list than what I've mentioned today, but if I missed over a game you think deserves to be on here among these soon-to-be legends, then please let me know. If I have enough games to work with, I'll make a part 2 of this video. Even though these games are beyond exciting, it's good to keep your hype in check to avoid needless disappointment, but then again, hype can be a very important tool to keep us excited about gaming in general, and that is never a bad thing. Anyways, thank you guys for stopping by and watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will have a new one out soon within the next week, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'm Abby.